everything goes on action for the extras, all the movement on the action.
B-Mark!
And action!
That's it.
Don't wander off.
Stop.
I was developing for 8 years with, took 3 studios in 8 years to get a movie called From Hell made, which I made for Fox, eventually. And I was on the phone with somebody who I consider a creative genius, a guy named Alan Moore, who did the comic book, the 500-page phone book, comic book that From Hell was based on. And I don't know, it was just good timing. I said, Alan, what else are you working on, you know? And it was just at that time he was starting a new line for Wildstorm Comics called ABC, America's Best Comics. Most of the titles sounded like generic superhero stuff, but done with an Alan Moore twist. I mean, cool stuff, but superhero stuff I had seen before. And then he said there was a thing he was doing called the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Sounded cool, so I asked him what it was about, and next thing you know, he's explaining to me how it's like all these literary figures from Victorian literature who kind of team up and become the world's first superhero team. And my assistant at the time, who's now my vice president, and I were on the call kind of listening to this going, holy, you know, will you please fax us something? And he faxed us the treatment that he had sold to Wildstorm. Pretty much within a week, you know, I had shown it to Fox and brought it to the head of the studio's attention, Tom Rothman, and became one of his favorite projects. It became this project that you always knew was going to get made because the idea was such a crazy but original good one.
You must have learned I was coming for you.
Obviously. Stop him! We need information. Bloody poison.
You may have no love for the Empire, but I know you love Africa. A war in Europe will spread to its colonies.
Go!
It appears the war has arrived.
I'm in.
Stop.
Very nice. I'd like to do a pickup.
We had problems finding the writer for the script because in order for the movie to work, you probably had to read about 15 really thick arcane books from the 1800s to know who all these characters were. I admit I probably had only read about, 10 of the 15. Once we found the writer, I realized that not only had he read the books, not only did he have the right tonality, but he was British. And I realized it came together, it worked because he was British and knew what this needed to be.
It's a cut.
Planning to be the last one. Did actually have a bit of a it was a bit tricky in the middle there, wasn't it? Yeah, I think. So, oh, yeah, I think I saw you accelerate, like, oh shit, I'm too far back, and then.
I was trying to clear him.
Yes, no, yeah. Yes. All right, one more time.
Once again.
3, 2, 1, action!
The idea was the script had been designed to be ensemble. You get 7 really good actors who are on their way up, but no big movie star. If there was anybody, any character in the movie who could have been a movie star, Quatermain, who even in the earlier drafts was the guy that put the League together and, the older, more experienced, cooler member of the League. So everyone said, well, you know who would be great? Sean Connery. And he'll never do it, but let's offer it to him anyway. About a week later, my reaction was, what? Norrington's going to go meet with Sean? This could happen? Did he read the script? Yeah. He read the script, not his agent. Yeah. Okay, this could happen then.
First meetings usually warrant introductions.
Fine. I understand. You are the League of so-called Extraordinary Gentlemen. Introduction, please. Oh, and I'm scarred, Mr. Quatermain, not blind. Drop the gun.
Well, when I first received the script, at first I didn't fancy it. I thought it was a little too tricksy. But having seen a lot of the effects and the sort of movies now, like Lord of the Rings and Matrix, both of which were offered to me, I couldn't understand either of them when I read them.
I think when he first met with the director, in his kind of teasing way, he said, you know, they offered me The Matrix and I didn't understand it, so I turned it down, and they offered me The Lord of the Rings and I didn't understand it, so I turned it down. And I'm not sure I understand this, but I'm not going to turn it down.
He's going to step in.
I, on the other hand, always side with the superior force. Take me. I'm yours.
Whack.
Oh, fuck. You don't scare me anymore.
Skinner's with me, and I'm with them.
In my head, you know, in my sort of optimistic head, it's like, you know, the Magnificent Seven, about how they go and get these characters who are these sort of reprobates, disgraced soldiers, etc., and form this sort of rag-bag group of warriors. So it's good against bad, really. It's bad turned good against bad. I mean, I'm not, you know, it's sort of, it's fairy tale stuff, really.
I don't know, I can't describe the feeling where you're playing one of these characters and there are these other people who are now friends of yours playing these other characters, and it's a funny and stimulating blend of real and fantasy.
Action, please.
One of them is late. Harker, the chemist.
Well, he'd better learn how to tell the time.
My eyesight must be worse than I thought.
No, your eyesight's fine. The first time you see me, or the first time you don't see me, I basically have to wear tight blue spandex, and it's not very comfortable, you know. And then they had to paint my whole head blue, and I had to my whole head, shave my head, paint it all blue, and I had to wear this blue suit. It takes about an hour to do that, and then they put these prosthetic pieces on my eyebrows, and they did actually try to shave my eyebrows, but I fought in my corner quite viciously about that. I said, no, please, I'd rather you didn't, you know. Easy, Alan, easy.
Enough, Ghost.
Oh, he speaks. I thought for a moment he'd been stuffed. Pleased to meet you. Allow me to introduce myself. Rodney Skinner, gentleman thief. You see, I thought invisibility would be a boon to my work. Well, you can imagine. It was my undoing. Well, once you're invisible, it's bloody hard to turn back.
We finally caught him.
And they'll provide an antidote. Well, that's if I'm a good boy.
And are you a good boy?
I guess you'll find out. Won't you?
Am I late?
A woman's prerogative, Mrs. Harker.
Please tell me this is Harker's wife with a sick note.
Simply be a while. My husband's been dead for years.
Gentlemen, Mrs. Wilhelmina Harker.
And you couldn't find a chemist
The
with...
right to vote? Alas, no.
Mina's prior acquaintance with a reluctant League member may also prove useful.
The quality of the costumes by Jackie West, she's done a phenomenal job.
She's created these characters, and you see us all together out in the pub on a Saturday night. We're just, you know, any old Joes, but you see us in these incredible costumes in this amazing surrounding. I even look at myself, I'm like, my God, this is nuts, you know. We're these comic book characters almost that have come to life, you know.
All of the clothes for the principal actors had to all be made. There is a certain degree of fantasy involved in costuming these characters, though they're all from literature. So it was a bit of a challenge, keeping them in character and making them all look good together and all look like superheroes.
The costume's really important. It's funny, I've had a job where I wore the costume and there was something missing and I put on a chain and that was it was there. Another time I had a pair of glasses and I put them on and there was the character. I don't know what it is, but costume is really important.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen.
I based Sean's look on a lot of great white hunter research. There was a character, John Hunter, who was in fact a Scotsman at the turn of the century who took safaris of the aristocracy through Africa. And he had quite a wonderful look. His safari shirts were this wonderful color of beige, and he wore a lot of leather that looked like almost weathered hippopotamus skin, you know, and the knee field boots and the cartridges on his belts. And I left certain cartridge holders with no cartridges in them to kind of symbolize the gaps in Quatermain's life.
My husband was Jonathan Harker. Together with a professor named Van Helsing, we fought a dangerous evil. Dracula, he was Transylvania.
Mina, I really wanted her to be the proper Victorian lady. And it was a time when women were starting to emulate the dress of men, because it was right before the women's movement. Peter Wilson said it really helped her character. She really felt this proper constraints of Victorian dress, the corset, the very severely buttoned up jacket, the hat, the veil. And the choice of corduroy was because it looks almost decayed on the screen.
The clock hands turn, gentlemen.
Kicking us out already? A moment ago, it was Sherry and Giggles.
We were sitting on the floor, and I said, you know, I see him kind of as a flasher. You should just have on a big overcoat and nothing else. He said, yes, you know, that's it. And then I forget how we decided to make it out of black leather, but that evolved later on when I started pulling swatches and seeing him. But the hat came from us having to cover him up, you know, as much as possible. And I actually took the shape from a buckaroo cap from a rodeo cowboy in the 1920s. And it gives him the most unique silhouette when he walks into a room. Dorian was always going to be gray for me. The grayness came from probably that he's all ashes inside.
What are you? I'm complicated.
I had drawn Dorian and made him the proper almost British fop, you know, just very more dandified, thinking that he would be very vain and that his clothes would be a little frillier. But I wanted to keep him very, very romantic, so I kept the lines of his clothes very long and the flare of the sleeves.
Drink the elixir. No. She barely even looks at you.
Be quiet.
She looked at me. Contain your evil, Doctor.
Jekyll is the one character I wanted to be absolutely perfect of the period, because he's the conservative one. He's the proper British doctor of the Victorian era. And when Jason first came to the fitting, he said, oh, you know, another period costume, I do so much period, you know, being a British actor. And as he went through the fittings and we put all the different layers of his wardrobe on, the waistcoat, the braces, the proper shirt, the, you know, very starched collar, the cravat, he got very into it. Again, he would stand differently, walk differently, even talk differently.
Throw your pistol!
I walk a different path.
Captain Nemo I based on the Prince of Dakar, who was involved in rebellions against the British. And I found in London somebody whose family actually makes, back in India, all the turbans for the royal families in Rajasthan. He hand-carried the fabric I dyed to match Nemo's coats to Rajasthan and had all the turbans handmade in the tradition. And then for all of his epaulets and all the silver on him, I took it all out of Hindu books of old statuary and sculptures and replicated it on all the metal on his costume.
And you are?
Special Agent Sawyer of the American Secret Service.
It was a real collaboration with Stephen. He has a real vision, and I love working with him because he knows exactly what he likes and what he doesn't. And I'll show him 5 drawings and he'll say, that, I love that. For instance, I came with a very Western look for Tom Sawyer, and then halfway through he said, yeah, I love that, that's how I see him too. And then he said, I wonder if Tom Sawyer should be in the next century, and he should be more like a 1920s detective. And he said, if he were, how would you see him? And I said, well, I think I'd do him, with the double holster like a cowboy, but I think he should still have remnants of Tom Sawyer. Maybe his suspenders should drop down like his overalls would have. And then Stephen would say, what about a long coat? Can we keep the duster, but make it like a almost Eliot Ness style detective? Quatermain being from the last century, and he takes up the gauntlet for the next century.
I've just got a pair of these now to wear now.
Let's have a rehearsal, please. Action!
What in God's name is that?
It's mine.
Yeah? But what is it?
The future, gentlemen. The future. This is my first mate.
Call me Ishmael.
God's name is that?
It's mine.
Yeah? But what is it?
The future, gentlemen, the future. This is my first mate.
Take 2 on the end.
What in God's name is that?
I call it an automobile.
Nemo's got this magnificent car, which we've established. It does about 100 and something miles an hour. It's a 6-wheeler, like the big Bentleys and the big Mercs used to have.
In reality, the car's a pain in the butt to drive, but it looks beautiful.
The Nemo car, that's a challenge in itself because of the design and just the impracticality of the car. So it's taken a bit to get it to where it is, and the mechanics have done a great job to get it there.
We took the basis of a 7.5-ton Ford cargo chassis, stripped it right back down so we just had the 2 rails. We made up a subframe to go inside it. We turned it over, so there's a 2-inch dip at the back of the floor pan. It's got a Rover V8 in it with an automatic transmission. It's got hydraulic suspension up and down. It's got about a travel of 8 inches. It's got trick brakes on it, so you can lock off any brake on the vehicle for the stunt guys. Overall dimensions of the car will be 22 feet by 8 feet. It's a big thing, with of course the 4-wheel steering at the front, which was interesting to get the geometry right on. That's about it really. And we built it in about 4 weeks.
How fast do you think this could get going?
It's entirely up to him. It'll probably do 60, 50, 60. If you can keep it on the road.
With a fiberglass body, it'll start rattling. Anything over 30, 35, you'll start getting a lot of rattle with fiberglass.
I don't think it's ever going to pull that skid, is it? I mean, it's never going to pull the skid like.
180.
180? I don't think it'll do it. You need quite a bit of room here. I mean, my turning radius, I needed another 10 feet just to get around.
Right, this is the final body fitting to the chassis. We've made everything sort of adjustable just to get it all to fit nicely and look good. That's basically what's going on. We've got to take some measurements for the door pillars to swing the doors on. They've been prefabricated. We've just got to measure them up, get their final position. And that's about it. That's what we're doing today.
Good?
Ready to go?
We're good. So kids, let this be a lesson to you. Do not do steroids or any recreational drugs. This is what happens to you. No one loves a druggie.
A lot of times you work with someone who's not familiar with effects or familiar a little bit with effects, and they're kind of afraid to let the experts that they've hired do their job. Stephen, because he knows about effects, he knows the passion with which all of us get into this business and why we're in the business and what we do on a daily basis, he wanted to hear it because he was spread in 100 other directions. So that was a real plus on the show. I mean, I wouldn't say he just let me run rampant. He gave us a lot of direction. He gave us very intelligent direction. So it was a real welcome opportunity, actually.
Yeah, you look great. That's really good, actually.
So I just do some of his shit and some of his good, Steve, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's all good. Lots of energy. Action, please.
One of the things that kind of made it a little bit difficult to get started initially on this is, we all knew from the comic that Hyde was going to be bigger than life. And Stephen had a great idea on how to make him bigger than life. We would make this somewhat overscaled suit, which really is pretty overscaled, but not so overscaled that it would be cumbersome to walk around in, and then digitally apply him into the scenes. The problem was we didn't have an actor, so we really couldn't start. I mean, we could do sketches, seeing how Kevin O'Neill's beautiful design would translate into the real world over a real actor, which really wasn't that big of a problem because the thing was so big. So I'm thinking we're losing a lot of time. I really want this to be amazing. What can we do? And I didn't want to harass Stephen too much and insisting that he get an actor, because Stephen's goal was to hire someone that would be able to portray Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, so he could get the performance, even though the actor was going to end up wearing an incredibly uncomfortable device. So that was kind of a hard thing to find.
And action, please. Very good. Let's do it again. You good to go again, Jones?
So what we determined was building it in the typical way, doing a life cast of an actor and making a duplicate of their body, and then sculpting the change, and then molding and casting that in foam rubber would never work because it was so big. The guy would just be buried, he'd be stuck in it, and the foam would have been this thick, it wouldn't have moved. It would have killed him from heat exhaustion. I mean, there were a million reasons it wouldn't work. So we decided that we had to build all of the muscles individually over a frame that the actor would wear, and then in some places, for instance, in the shoulder blades, actually put working skeletal points in, and then stretch a very, very thin skin of foam rubber over that. And it sounds easy, but it wasn't. It was really, really difficult. Because imagine what we had to do was basically work in reverse, where we sculpted it in components first, this giant sculpture. And then we had to go back and recreate the individual muscle groups for the entire body, and then a skeletal structure under that.
And now Hyde is coming on.
I feel like I'm out of practice today. I haven't done this in a while.
You know, all actors, you know, want to transform themselves and do, you know, De Niro does it through, you know, character work and stuff, and I can't really do that, so I've decided the only way to do it is to do 7.5 hours of prosthetic, and that's, you know, it's a huge challenge to do that much makeup. But at the end of it, when you look in the mirror, it's really exciting to see yourself totally transformed.
And so Jackal became Hyde.
So the prosthetic is a facial prosthetic, which takes about 6 hours to put on, and an hour and a half into a bodysuit. It's really cool, though. It's like, Steve Norrington is, you know, his history is, you know, monsters and special effects, and he says he's never seen a prosthetic or a body like it, so it's quite cool to be part of that, I think.
What we did in order to facilitate Jason's performance coming through was really keep it very, very thin on the most mobile area of the face. I mean, it's almost not there. What we did is we ended it in natural areas of the face, like in the line of the nasolabial right here, the shadow of the lip and the chin meeting there, under there, so the shadows of the face would actually help hide the edges. But as it begins to go away from the most mobile areas, it gets really, really thick. I mean, this is a really thick jawline, and it actually does change his face quite a bit. If you saw a photograph of Jason right next to this, you'd go, oh my God, that's a pretty major change. But because it's so thin in here, it doesn't really look like it. And we also reshaped his head pretty thickly back here to give him more of a Cro-Magnon look.
I guess the trick is, with this stuff, is you have to go to a very calm place, which I find in video games, that someone deeper than me might find in Buddhism.
Hyde is a-comin'. You better run. You better lock up your children, 'cause Hyde's a-comin'. He'll be about 5.5 hours, and then you better get out of the way.
Once the sculpture is completed and the mold is made, it really doesn't take forever. The hair work is what took so long. The way it's made is you mix the foam in 4 components, 4 liquid components, mix the amount of air in it that you want in order to get at the density that you want. In this case, we wanted them very soft. Inject it into the mold, bake it in the oven for 4 or 5 hours, and if there's no real problems like steam traps, then you've got your appliance out in about a day. Then we had to take a seam off because the whole thing was basically one piece here. And that took about a day, and then we had to paint it, pre-paint it, that took about a day, and then the hair took a goddamn week.
Each head is only used for 1 day's filming, and the hair is individually, what's the word for it, Margaret?
Inserted or punched in.
Punched. Each hair is individually punched, and that's about 40 hours of work, and then the face painting and freckling is probably about another 10 hours, so each day is 50 hours of prep. So they're very expensive, so. And at the end of each day, we just go.
It's better, like, it's good at working with a mirror. So go like, do like this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the way the foam moves in the stomach's not bad at all. Doesn't look unnatural.
We made 5 full suits, 5 full torsos, as well as 12 pairs of arms. And there really was no difference between the stunt suits and the hero suits, because the stunt performer had to do so much action in the film. I mean, Jason did a lot of the performance, and specifically the close-ups and the facial stuff. But you know, it was a hard suit to wear. So the stunt performer suits had to still be good suits. They weren't just like for being drugged through the streets of Venice. We had a couple of dummies for that kind of thing, but they had to be hero suits too, because there were a lot of times when we were shooting over the shoulder, or in the entire Paris rooftop scene, except for the real tight close-ups of the stunt performers.
That was excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Please relax. Good.
I'm going to be saying that in my head anyway.
3, 2, 1, bang.
2, 1, and then I'm gone.
Okay, great. Let's get this going. Let's go. Thank you. I'll pick you up at the bottom.
No one goes forward once we have cut. Okay, the only person who goes forward to see how Kevin is Eddie, okay?
Takže žádný tleskání po pádu, dokud se neřekne cut, že je konec. A jediná osoba, která v tu chvíli půjde za Kevinem, je Eddie. Takže všichni zůstanou na místě.
Roll all cameras.
Speed on me!
Speed on me!
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, run!
Cut?
And cut. Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, it's just Jay.
Hey,
mate.
bro.
So bloody well.
What's up, dude?
I'm so fucking impressed.
Thank you. He's got some shit on. Not just yet.
Just wash his eyes out. Mate, that was unreal. It looked
Thank
absolutely
you.
wicked.
Did it?
Yeah, wicked.
You know what was weird? You want me to do it? It was like the never-ending rain of
Bricks.
tiles. What the?
You must have landed and gone, yeah, that went fine. Oh my god, what's all this shit?
It was like boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom.
Here comes the eye. Okay, cool. Well done, mate. Unbelievable.
Thank you.
It's fucking great.
Drop your hand down. Turn around for a second. Okay, so that back plate and maybe some additional padding and stuff would take care of it, all that shit.
There were, I think, 12 different pairs of arms made for different reasons. One pair was pretty straightforward and self-contained, which was like this. And as heavy as it is, it still works pretty well. So this was used when Jason was just walking around and you wanted some life to the arm.
But you can see how it works. Basically brass knuckle there, and by altering, so they comply also when he holds on to things. So they're pretty damn cool.
That's all it does, but it's just one bar, so it's pretty easy. And the wrist is kind of kinetic, so. So these were a fairly standard pair that were used, and we wanted to really do something that required a lot of dexterity. We had a pair of arms that had full cables running out of them and external operators that could operate the fingers through a slave system so that Jason could very easily pick things up or grab onto handles, that kind of thing. And so we had lightweight stunt versions, fully mechanical ones, these internally self-motivated ones, and then a couple of specific sculptures, this being one, the fist, because anytime you end up with a sculpture that's in a neutral position and you try to force it into a fist, if you've just got some type of wire in there, it's always going to look a little bit mushy. So we actually sculpted fists so we could get the hard bones and the anatomy that a fist would have, thinking, of course, Hyde would be smashing a lot of things with his fists.
This is us, 7.5 hours in. About that, guys? 6.5 hours in. Can't understand why no one else wanted the part. I'm gonna get my helmet on and Hyde's going out there. Damn straight. We ain't taking no shit from them guys no more, no way.
I mean, I hate to say just the standard bullshit, but he was good to work with. I mean, he really did want to make it work, and he was really, excited to wear the suit. It wasn't one of those things where it was beneath him. And so therefore, he was really on our team. I mean, I really felt like he was looking out for us, before himself even, which is kind of rare. I mean, he really wanted to make sure that Margaret got enough sleep and that everyone was being treated well, because, it basically took something like 8 people to get him up on screen, and he was really, really cool about it and very thoughtful.
What were you saying?
We're not to see Jason till after lunch.
Oh, you're kidding me. That's horrible.
Why do you do that, you horrible people?
I didn't, but it basically means with the time schedule that we have, we'd have to take an early lunch and then come back to your shot after lunch.
Okay, no worries. Whatever Steve says is best.
No, this is not a problem being in that, is it?
No, none at all.
Since you've been up since 4:40 in a car, coming here, 6 hours prosthetic.
I could do with a little bit more time preparing. Whatever's good for the film, that's what I say. 2 more weeks to go.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Next step coming.
Best not have too many apple boxes, hey? Blow the budget.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, man.
I think that the reason why Mr. Hyde in this film is there as a practical creation is, it's complicated. Well, number one, Steven knows effects. Did he want the Hulk in his movie? No. And he knew that's what it would end up being like. And, not to insult that process or that creature or that film at all, I love digital stuff. I mean, I see the potential. I see that suddenly you can do anything you want, and it's a hell of a lot easier in some respects than standing behind a camera while a bunch of people are pulling cables and waiting for makeup to be applied. But I think that the truth of what the future of effects is going to be about is going to be a real blend of the two things. I really do, and I think nobody's really found that path yet to where we both really complement each other, because there's advantages to both. There really are, and there's a lot that can be done and accomplished by blending the two techniques that hasn't really been even tapped yet. So that's my feeling, and I just think that this character, I'm happy, is on the screen the way it is, and I think a lot of other people really think it turned out really well too.
Very good. Cut it. How was that then, Rodrigo? Yeah, looked very good. Let's get Jason down.
So this you have for take two, Lima.
All right, very nice. So don't get too excited about the shaking. Ready? Yep. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1, kaboom! Okay.
We're too late. What can we do?
You must remove a domino.
Yes, get ahead of the collapse and destroy the next building.
You can interrupt the chain of destruction.
That's ridiculous.
No, I could launch a rocket.
What are you talking about? Gray's right. It's too late.
What can we hope to achieve? This is more than any of us could have imagined.
Then it is time for swift action.
I'm an immortal, sir, not a gazelle. How can we outrun this?
Car! Very good. And there is no car. Do it again.
The construction and design on the film are as good as anything I've ever encountered in all my years, but also the scale. The scale of everything to do with the movie to date is epic. It might be probably one of the biggest. It's certainly, I think, the biggest production I've ever been involved in.
Shooting in Prague was a decision that was made before I started working on the film. Probably from an economical point of view. Prague is a very popular place to shoot right now. It's a place that has beautiful scenery, beautiful architecture, beautiful locations to shoot in, very good studio facilities, and very good crews. And the dollar value, what the US dollar can buy in Czech crowns, is very favorable. Probably in the end, we spent about $3 million building this set, which, if it had been built in North America, probably would have been closer to 10. It's basically a very good place to shoot. The crews are excellent. The art department people there are very good. There's construction companies that are used to building very large sets. The only con is just the fact that we don't speak Czech. It's a very difficult language, and you have to go through interpreters all the time. Not all of your crew members are English speaking, but it's the same kind of problems that you have when you're shooting in China or anywhere else in the world. It's dealing with interpreters and hoping that the interpreters are interpreting exactly what you want and not their interpretation of what they think you want.
The film's a big adventure, and the sets are extraordinary. It's sort of almost like you can get inside them, you know, that kind of set. I was so overwhelmed by how beautifully done it was. The art direction is superb on the film, and it's delicious. It's like a fairy tale, you know. And as an actor walking in and seeing, this is your circumstance, this is where you are, I don't really know how to describe it. I just thought, this is fantastic. This is where I said, my first thing was, Mum, come and have a look at this.
I think when the actors can work on a set that is very realistic and sets a tone and an atmosphere for the film, it helps them to respond to what's around them and to the other actors much easier than when they're, say, standing in front of a green screen, which a lot of the time they had to do on this film.
This vast sort of panorama of Venice that they've constructed, I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's, you know, it's enough for you to sort of get on your phone to friends and family and agents and stuff and say, you should really come and see this one.
And action, please! I'll need coordinates. Of course. They launched when you see the Right.
The Venice set that we built for Extraordinary Gentlemen was based on a lot of real photographs on the real architecture of Venice. We elaborated on it a little bit, exaggerated it. It was a very gray color palette. That was Steven's wish, and also a very crumbling set. He wanted the set to look as if it was about to decay. It was a very long set. It was about 700 to 800 feet long. And it also incorporated the streets of London that we built and the streets of Paris that we built. The London and Paris streets ran parallel to the Venice streets, and there were interconnecting streets so that when we were in Venice, when you were looking down other side streets, you were actually looking at London and you were looking at Paris, but in the dark, again, you didn't really tell.
All right, here we go. Lots of energy, please. Action, please, action! Hit it! Very good.
Knight Rider's got nothing on me. Nothing. It's just amazing. It's like they built a real city, you know? It's a shame they have to tear it down. That's the biggest problem. They should just leave it here and let, I don't know, people hang out or have raves here or something.
That's one of the joys of being on a kind of a mad big movie, is walking on the set every time and you just go, oh my God, you know? I mean, this set is, I can't even comprehend how they made it. Honestly, it's 3 or 4 months of, I don't know. I don't even know how you do it, you know?
It took us about 2 months of drawing time to draw it. And then we were still drawing as we were building it. We were a bit worried about whether we would have it done or not. Consequently, we had about 225 painters and carpenters working on it, and they were working 3 shifts around the clock. It rained almost totally the whole time that we were building it. We had just about 8 weeks to build it, and the first 4 weeks it rained continually. We were painting, and the paint was running off the walls from the rains as we were painting. We'd get one building painted, and the next, and it would rain, and you'd have to go back and paint it again because the paint had all run off the building.
Okay, quiet down, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mark.
Set. And action!
Split up into squads and sweep the city.
One flare up, a 5-man team.
Signal the first sign of suspicious activity.
The city is vast, full of mask and mystery.
Oh, then you should be in your element.
What about Skinner?
Be alert for his treachery.
God, I feared the worst.
The flood was a major disaster. Not only did we have a studio and workshops filled with 14 feet of water, on our other sets, we also had to deal with the fact that we couldn't get any materials to our set while we were building Venice, and most of our crew of people were at home trying to battle the flood themselves, trying to save their home, or trying to get to work over bridges that were closed. It was a bit of a nightmare, but we managed to cope, and it was a miracle that we were able to get it done in time. I think that was what I'm most proud about that set, is just being able to get it done on time, on budget.
Okay, let's go back with the building. We can cheat the clip a little bit more so that the rear end of the car is not tagging the building. So we have steering, although you've taken it down quite a bit. And we have headlights coming up. Are they all on? They're all on. We have the puppets. Got it.
Roll camera. Stay. 3, 2, 1, action.
Miniature effects, to me, are sort of the last bastion of movie magic. You get a crew of 60 people, every talent from sculptors to model makers to painters to mechanical effects people, welders, all coming together, and at the end, all these different skills, and everybody has a different skill, they come together with their talents, and you produce something literally for the camera, in front of the camera, and you're completely fooling the audience. So not only does it have to look real, but it has to destruct like a real thing, and it all has to appear that it's a full-size piece.
The buildings are falling like dominoes!
And our job in this project was to produce miniature buildings for Venice, as you can see. There are scenes in the movie where the buildings are sinking, crumbling apart, collapsing, and basically the city sinking.
The visual effects supervisor for the whole film, Yannick Sears, approached us about, can we do this in miniature? Is this going to be a convincing technique? And we pushed for this primarily because it's a very at least today, it's a very cost-effective approach as opposed to computer animation. The turnaround, we had a 4-month construction period and we'll have about a 2-month photography period. So in 6 months, you'll have pretty much finished shots. And we're talking, 40 to 50 shots from various angles. The other option with miniature effects is you can place multiple cameras on the models and get 5 different angles in one shot. And you can light the models. You can see you have instant results. You set them up on set, you look at them, you say, well, I don't like the lighting, we change the lighting, and you have a different look. We started with blueprints and schematics so we can break them down for the model makers. And then my model crew chief and mechanical effects supervisor broke down everything. We actually had a number of meetings daily to figure out how we could build Venice in 5th scale, which is a 160-foot long by 30-foot wide footprint. We had 50 or so shots to do. We had to get the construction done in 4 months, which includes a radio-controlled car, 2 stunt cars, pyro models, a practical canal, 30 buildings at sink, and everything had to be resettable. So it wasn't like, here are the models, let's blow them up, okay, we're done. We had to do multiple take after take after take.
Roll camera. Speed and action.
The buildings actually are constructed similar to the way houses are built, or the way sets are built. We start off with like a pine or fir 1 by 3, frame them out in 1 by 3, and then skin them with a very thin plywood. Then over that we'll have various types of details, from some resin cast details that come out of rubber molds to vacuum formed sheet plastic, which is applied to the buildings. Then we'll go in with a plaster very similar to the plaster that would be used in even real Venice.
Everything's pretty much built from scratch. So as far as putting a team together, we have pretty much every facet of talent in everything we do. We'll have carpenters, sculptors, people that work in electronics, plasterers, painters. We try to make it as realistic as possible, that if we were 14 inches tall, we could walk through here and kick a can and break up the cobblestone road or whatever.
When it comes to the details, the one thing about miniature effects, or the one way to sell a shot being real, is you have to have something that people can identify with instantly. If it's tables and chairs or little glasses or wine bottles, that's the sort of thing that gives it instant scale. And all that stuff is handmade. We'll make patterns and then mold and cast and make multiples. It's sometimes very difficult to find off-the-shelf items for that. Sometimes you can find maybe baskets or little buckets, but for the most part, you have to make everything. The biggest mechanical challenge would probably be sinking these buildings. Each one of these models weighs anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pounds, and they're going to be 6 feet in the air because we need to take up at least 6 feet of room as they're supposedly sinking into their foundations. So we broke down a mechanical rig. It's basically a hydraulic scissor jack, which is going to be similar to a scissor lift you would see on stage, but basically is a series of steel struts that are supported by another series of steel struts, sort of in a scissor mechanism, and then actuated by a hydraulic piston. And this will actually collapse the building. The building will be placed on this rig. It'll be about 6 feet in the air and actually will sink.
Come on, Sawyer, come on!
We've got rigs that shake the buildings. We've got about 30 dump rigs that'll be dumping debris constantly. The illusion is just to continuously have debris and things falling, things moving, to give the audience the understanding that this thing is just coming apart.
What we've done is we've built a microprocessor and assembled it to a timing circuit, and each building will be controlled through this microprocessor and a timing circuit to time out this sequence. Each building can have up to 7 or 8 different effects happening within that 1 second period of time. There are floors in between the buildings that collapse. They're controlled pneumatically with breakaway facades in them. There's also debris rigs that push debris out to give the illusion of more crumbling facade than what is actually happening. So if you take all those components and variables and then time them into 1 second, and then time those into 4/10 of a second apart, you can see where the challenges lie in trying to fulfill the shot requirements for the scene. One of the major problems that we had to come up with a solution for is the timing and the speeds of the props. When you scale miniatures down, the smaller you make them, inherently to build mass in the prop, you want to speed things up and shoot them at a higher frame rate, which makes them look larger. 99% of the photography for Venice is going to be high-speed photography, meaning we're shooting at faster than a normal film rate. Normal film rate's 24 frames a second. We'll be shooting somewhere in the neighborhood of 53 frames a second. And everything has to happen faster. We have to accelerate everything to give the illusion that when it's played back at normal speed, it's moving at a realistic rate. The biggest shot is the League in Captain Nemo's automobile chasing down the Venice towpath right next to the canal as the buildings are collapsing. It's basically outrunning the buildings. It's a huge sequence. It's a huge rigging, and we're going to be doing it in camera.
Roll camera, and
The car is attached to a high-speed endless drive, which is a cable drive, and it pulls the car down the towpath at our target speed of 22 miles per hour. When the car is driven down the path at 22 miles per hour, there's a shoe, or what we're calling a mouse, that travels underneath the towpath in the opposite direction. On that mouse, we put proximity switches that tell the microprocessors when they're supposed to start or turn on, and then we can time out which pieces to happen or which pieces to go into action or motion at the time and space of where the car is located.
The most exciting thing about doing this is fooling the audience and getting them to believe what they see is real. And to see our shots cut in with the live action and being pretty much seamless, there's a lot of satisfaction in that.
Our destination's no more than a mile away.
What a cheerful fellow. So, how did them get you?
None of your business.
Found something to hold over you? Saucy daguerreotypes? I've heard that jaded travellers find the long-limbed boys of North Africa are delicious. It's only making conversation. Do hold on to your pith helmet. Mina,
The question was perfectly fine. Why are you here?
To resolve a situation in which you are all participants.
You're a little testy, Mr. Q.
Mrs. Harker, I doubt if you measure danger the way I do.
And I imagine you with quite the library, Mr. Quatermain. All those books you must have read merely by looking at their covers.
I've had women along on past exploits and found them to be, at best, a distraction.
Do I distract you?
My dear girl, I've buried 2 wives and many lovers, and I'm in no mood for more of either.
You can send them my way if you like.
Skinner, shut up. Old tigers, sensing the end, they're at their most fierce. And they go down fighting.
Hey, Nemo, where's your dining room? Because I could eat a meal. Thank you.
Where is everyone?
They all asked to eat in their cabins.
We may be a league, but we're sure not a team.
No, team or no team, there's work to be done. Rude buggers. The Phantom has been kidnapping scientists. All of them versed in weapons of war, except one. A structural engineer.
Why bring him to me?
Oh, surely time has taught you to see beyond the obvious.
Mr. Quatermain, is there anything I can do?
Nothing for now, Jekyll. Don't worry. Mr. Hyde will get his hands dirty.
And not how I left him, Captain. That's all I'm saying.
Powder?
You think sabotage? We ain't that far off course.
I don't recognize the smell. Maybe Mrs. Harker would...
Mina?
I'm identifying a powder that Nemo found. Oh, magnesium phosphorus. Photographers use it to create a flash.
A camera, perhaps?
It appears that someone wishes to capture his vessel's secrets.
I thought you should know that, for those who've asked, I've told them that I'm an old friend of your family.
To spare me embarrassment? Look, I'm above what other people think. We were lovers once upon a time. Our love died. You know, I was surprised that you ultimately joined the League. You were a selfish man, Dorian. This task requires heroes.
I mean to undo the flaws in my character. I want to face my demons.
Contain your evil, Doctor. I'll not have the brute free upon my ship. Must I take drastic steps?
I am in control.
I very much doubt it. Even the strongest of men knows evil's allure.
Your talk is all well and good, sir, but your own past is far from laudable.
I'm sorry.
Has Hyde killed?
He has done every evil a man can do. And my curse, I recall his actions.
I sympathize. My curse, I recall my own. Full power!
I think I flooded it.
Flooded?
Greco, come on! You'll need Hyde! Through! I will never use me again.
Then what good are you?
Stand down! We'll both be killed!
You're destroying Venice. It's fitting it should destroy you.
And you die as well!
Perhaps it's my time.
Can we still follow Gray?
Well, we were the faster, but now we're the tortoise to his hare.
So we're done.
No. We're alive. If M has any ideas to the contrary, that gives us an edge.
The sea is vast. He could be anywhere.
Yeah, well, I'm an optimist. Now, maybe that's a crime, you twisted so-and-sos, but it keeps me from going crazy.
Your optimism's out of place.
You're wrong. Because we'll get our man. Or at least I will. That other agent I told you about was my childhood friend. We were agents together until the Phantom shot him dead. Now, you can be done, but I am not. I will avenge his death.
It's not about any one of us, Tom. It's bigger than that.
Yes, it is, Jekyll. The fate of the world is in our hands. The world. So M tricked you. He brought you all together and you walked straight into his trap. But the way that I see it, that was his big mistake. He brought you together.
He has a point.
And the boy becomes a man. Perhaps a leader of men.
And women.
We're getting a signal.
Thank you.
For what?
Your fearlessness. I've always been rather afraid to step into tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's where I live and breathe.
Yes, I see that.
Hey, if my earlier intentions offended you in any way, I'm sorry, because
I'm disappointed. I didn't think that Americans gave up so easily.
They sent a woman to fight me. Nothing if I'm emancipated.
Join me in London. Give in to your demons and we'll be a league of two.
Dream on.
I don't. My body doesn't require sleep.
You can sleep when you're dead.
You wicked tease. You talk as if you could do me harm.
I'm a woman. I can do all sorts of things.
Minx.
Do you realize what you've done? What you've let out in me?
A woman's wrath. Oh, I'm petrified. We'll be at this all day.